Park Do-yun was eating breakfast when the message arrived. His apartment in Seoul was quiet, the morning sun coming through the window. He looked at his tablet and saw the official seal of the United Earth Federation. His coffee grew cold as he read the words 3 times. He had been chosen. Out of all the diplomats on Earth, they had picked him to speak for humanity. The Galactic Council wanted answers, and he would have to give them. Do-yun was 38 years old. He had spent 15 years talking to aliens, learning their languages, understanding their ways. But this was different. This was not a trade meeting or a cultural exchange. The Council had accused Earth of a crime, and the punishment could destroy everything humanity had built among the stars. He stood up and walked to his window. Below him, the city moved like it always did. People went to work. Children went to school. They did not know that their future might be decided by one man standing alone in a room full of aliens, who thought humans were nothing more than children playing with dangerous toys. The crime was simple. Human colony ships had entered a place called the Kepler Vale. 3 worlds now held more than 2 million people. Families had built homes there. Children had been born there. But the Galactic Council said those stars belonged to no one. They said humans had broken the law. Do-yun knew the truth. No one had told them about these boundaries. The maps Earth received when they joined the galactic community showed nothing. Empty space. Open territory. Either someone had made a mistake, or someone had set a trap. He dressed in his formal uniform and took a transport to the Federation headquarters in Geneva. The building was tall and white, standing like a monument to human ambition. 50 years ago, humans had not even left their own solar system. Now they had colonies on 20 worlds. They had made friends and enemies among the stars. They had learned that the universe was full of life, and most of it did not think much of humanity. Admiral Yunji was waiting for him in the briefing room. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and gray hair cut short. She had commanded Earth's defense fleet for 12 years. Do-yun had worked with her before and respected her greatly. "You understand what you're walking into," she said. "It was not a question, I understand," Do-yun replied. "The Council has existed for 12,000 years. In all that time, they have never ruled in favor of a younger species. Not once." She pulled up a display showing the alien station where he would go. It was called Nexus Prime, and it was larger than some moons. They built this place to make others feel small. "It works." Dr. Choi Minho entered the room next. He was the Federation's best expert on alien languages and customs. He was younger than Do-yun, with kind eyes behind his glasses, but his face was worried. "I've studied every record of Council proceedings I could find," Minho said. "The pattern is always the same. Young species make mistakes. The Council punishes them. The young species accept the punishment and spend centuries trying to earn back their status." He paused. "Those who refuse to accept, we don't hear from them again." Do-yun felt the weight of those words. Entire civilizations had disappeared because they stood against the Council. What chance did humanity have? "What are they likely to demand?" he asked. Minho looked at his notes. "Best case, economic sanctions, maybe 50 years. Worst case, they take our FTL technology and quarantine Earth. We go back to being trapped in our own solar system." "And the colonies? The people living there?" "They'll have to leave. The Council will resettle them somewhere else, or ... Minho did not finish the sentence. Do-yun nodded slowly. 2 million people, families, children, homes built with hope and hard work. The Council would scatter them like dust. Admiral Yoon stepped closer. "The fleet is ready if you need us. We're outgunned 50 to 1, but we're ready." "Let's hope it doesn't come to that," Do-yun said. He spent the next 2 days preparing. He read everything about the Council, about the species that controlled it, about the laws they claimed to follow. He practiced his words in front of mirrors. He barely slept. On the morning of his departure, he met the rest of his delegation. Kim Soo-jin would be his aide. She was young, only 29, but she had a sharp mind and noticed things others missed. Lee Tai-woo was the cultural attaché, a quiet man who had lived among 3 different alien species. He knew how to read their moods better than anyone. They boarded the diplomatic vessel Horizon's Edge at the orbital station above Earth. The ship was small but fast, designed to show that humans valued efficiency over display. As they prepared to leave, Do-yeon received one final message. It was from Secretary General Han Yoon-ji, the leader of the United Earth Federation. She was an older woman, elegant and calm, but her words carried iron. "Ambassador Park," she wrote, "you carry the voice of 8 billion people. The Council expects us to bow. They expect us to apologize and accept whatever scraps they offer. They have done this to every young species for 12,000 years. She paused in the recording, and her eyes grew hard. They do not know us. They do not understand what we are. Show them. Do-yeon read the message again as the ship jumped to FTL speed. The stars stretched into lines of light and Earth disappeared behind them. So-jin sat down across from him. "Are you afraid?" she asked. He thought about the question. "Yes," he admitted. "But I'm also angry. We did nothing wrong. We went where we thought we could go. We built homes for our people. And now they want to punish us for their own failure to tell us the rules." Tae-woo joined them, carrying cups of tea. "The Council doesn't see it that way. To them, we're newcomers. We haven't earned the right to question anything." "Then maybe it's time we started earning it," Do-yeon said. The journey to Nexus Prime took 3 days. Do-yeon spent most of that time preparing, but sometimes he stood at the observation window and watched the stars pass by. Each one might have worlds around it. Each world might have people, human or alien, living their lives, hoping for peace. He thought about his parents, who had died before humanity ever left Earth. They had dreamed of a future among the stars. They had believed that when humans finally met other life, it would be a moment of wonder and friendship. They had been wrong. The galaxy was not a place of friendship. It was a place of power, and humanity had very little of it. The Council controlled everything. The older species made the rules, and the younger species followed them or suffered. But Do-yeon remembered something his father once told him. The universe doesn't care how small you are. It only cares how bright you burn. As Nexus Prime appeared on the view screen, massive and ancient and cold, Do-yeon made himself a promise. Whatever happened in that council chamber, he would not bow. He would not apologize for humanity's existence. He would speak the truth and let the galaxy decide what to do with it. The ship began its approach, and the station grew larger until it filled the entire view. Somewhere inside that mountain of metal and stone, the Galactic Council was waiting. Do-yeon straightened his uniform and prepared to meet them. Nexus Prime was older than human civilization. It had floated in space for 12,000 years, watching empires rise and fall, seeing species climb to greatness and sink into nothing. The station was home to millions of beings from hundreds of worlds, and it smelled like all of them at once. Park Do-yeon stepped off the Horizon's Edge and felt very small. The docking bay alone was larger than most Earth cities. Ships of every shape and size filled the space, some beautiful, some ugly, some so strange that Do-yeon could not tell which end was the front. Aliens walked past in crowds, speaking languages that his translator could barely handle. Some looked at the human delegation with curiosity. Most looked at them with something else. "They're staring," Kim So-jin said quietly. "Let them," Do-yeon replied. "We have nothing to hide." A group of tall, thin beings with silver skin approached them. These were the Valorians, one of the oldest species in the Council. Their ambassador, a female named Desara, looked down at Do-yeon with pale eyes that held no warmth. "The children have arrived," she said. Her translator made the words flat, but the insult was clear. "The Council will see you when it is ready. Until then, you will wait." She turned and walked away without another word. Lee Tae-woo watched her go. "The Valorians have been part of the Council since the beginning. They see every younger species as beneath them. Then we'll have to change their minds." Do-yeon said they were given quarters in a section of the station reserved for provisional members, species who had not yet proven themselves worthy of full status. The rooms were small and cold, with furniture designed for bodies very different from human ones. Do-yeon did not complain. He had not come here for comfort. The waiting lasted 2 days. Do-yun used the time to study, to prepare, to walk the station and observe. He saw wonders that would have amazed him once: floating gardens, libraries that held the knowledge of a million worlds, markets where you could buy anything from anywhere. But he also saw the truth beneath the beauty. The older species lived in luxury. The younger ones served them. On the third day, a message came. The council would see them now. The council chamber was built to inspire fear. It rose up like a cathedral, with walls of dark stone and a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Hundreds of seats filled the room in a great circle, each one holding a representative of a different species. At the center, on a raised platform, sat the High Arbiter. Thiessen was not like any being Do-yun had ever seen. His body was made of living crystal, blue and cold, and light moved inside him like slow lightning. He had led the council for 3,000 years. His word was law. "The human delegation may approach," Thiessen said. His voice filled the chamber without effort. Do-yun walked forward with Sojin and Taiwu behind him. He could feel hundreds of eyes watching him, some with curiosity, some with anger, some with amusement. He kept his back straight and his face calm. "I am Park Do-yun, ambassador of the United Earth Federation. I speak for humanity." "We know who you are," said a new voice. It came from a massive reptilian figure sitting in the front row. This was Korath, ambassador of the Dominion Hegemony. His scales were dark red, and his teeth showed when he smiled. "We also know what your people have done." Korath stood and activated a display in the center of the chamber. It showed 3 worlds, green and blue, covered with clouds, beautiful and alive. "The Kepler Veil," Korath said. "A protected zone, close to all expansion by council law. And yet, human ships entered this space. Human colonists built settlements. 2 million humans now live on worlds they have no right to occupy." Murmurs filled the chamber. Do-yun heard words like arrogant and typical, and what did you expect from primitives? He waited until the noise died down, then spoke. "The United Earth Federation was never informed that the Kepler Veil was protected. When we joined the galactic community, we received navigation charts that showed these systems as open territory. We expanded there in good faith, following the maps we were given." Korath laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Good faith? You expect this council to believe that humanity simply made a mistake? That 8 colony ships went to the same restricted zone by accident?" "I expect this council to examine the evidence," Do-yun replied. "The charts we received were incomplete. Either there was an administrative error or the information was deliberately withheld. In either case, humanity is not at fault." The chamber erupted. Species shouted over each other, some in anger, some in disbelief. Thiessen raised one crystalline hand and silence fell instantly. "The maps provided to the United Earth Federation have been reviewed," the High Arbiter said. "They were standard navigational charts given to all new members. Any missing information is not the Council's responsibility. Ignorance of the law is no defense." Do-yun felt his heart sink, but he did not let it show. "Then I request that the Council share the complete maps now, so that humanity can avoid any future misunderstandings." "That information is restricted to full members," Korath said quickly. "Humanity has not earned that status. How can we follow rules we are not allowed to know?" "By remaining where you belong." Korath's voice thundered through the chamber. "Your species has existed for the blink of an eye. You have no right to question traditions that have kept the peace for 12,000 years. You should be grateful the Council allows you to exist among us at all." Do-yun said nothing. He stood still while the words washed over him. While the alien faces stared at him with contempt, he thought about the 2 million people living in the Kepler Veil, families, children, people who had done nothing wrong except follow maps that lied to them. Thiessen spoke again. "The Council has reached a preliminary judgment. Humanity must abandon all settlements in the Kepler Veil within 1 standard year. All colonists must be relocated. In addition, to prevent future violations, humanity will surrender complete schematics of their faster-than-light drive technology." The chamber fell silent. Do-yun heard Sujin gasp behind him. Furthermore, Thiessen continued, humanity will accept a probationary status of 200 years, during which time they will have no voting rights and no voice in council matters. These terms are non-negotiable. Do-Yun stared at the High Arbiter. Give up their FTL technology. That was not a punishment, it was a death sentence. Without faster-than-light travel, humanity would be trapped, helpless, dependent on other species for everything. They would never recover. You have 72 hours to deliver Earth's response, Thiessen said. This session is concluded. The chamber began to empty. Do-Yun stood frozen as aliens walked past him, some smirking, some shaking their heads. Korath stopped beside him. Accept the terms, human. Your species is not ready for the galaxy. Perhaps in a few thousand years, you will be. He walked away, his tail swishing behind him. Sojin touched Do-Yun's arm. Ambassador ... Not here, he said quietly. We'll talk on the ship. They were almost to the door when someone stepped in front of them. It was a being unlike any other in the chamber, taller than a human, wrapped in dark robes with a face that seemed to shift like smoke. This was Elder Yalish of the Watchers, a species so old that even the Valorians treated them with respect. Ambassador Park, Yalish said. The voice was soft, almost kind. May I speak with you privately? Do-Yun glanced at his team, then nodded. They stepped into a small alcove off the main hall. You should know the truth, Yalish said. What happened to your people today has happened before. Many times. A young species rises, shows promise, threatens the order. The council finds a reason to push them down. Most accept it. They spend centuries trying to climb back up. Most never do. And those who refuse? Yalish's face shifted into something that might have been sadness. They disappear. The galaxy forgets they ever existed. Do-Yun felt cold. Why are you telling me this? Because in 12,000 years I have never seen the council afraid. Until now. Yalish leaned closer. They are afraid of you. Of what humanity might become? That fear makes them dangerous. Be careful, Ambassador. And be ready. The Watcher turned and vanished into the shadows. Do-Yun stood alone in the alcove for a long moment. Then he walked back to his ship, his mind already composing the message he would send to Earth. The Council wanted humanity to bow. He would ask Earth if they were willing to stand instead. The message from Nexus. Prime reached Earth in seconds. It spread across the planet in minutes. Within an hour, the entire world knew what the Galactic Council had demanded. Surrender their FTL technology. Abandon 2 million colonists. Accept 200 years of silence. The reaction was immediate. And it was fury. In New Geneva, the headquarters of the United Earth Federation filled with shouting voices. Representatives from every nation crowded the assembly hall, all of them talking at once. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to negotiate. A few wanted to accept the terms and survive. But most felt something deeper, cold anger that came from being treated like nothing. Secretary General Han Yunji stood at the center of the storm. She was 63 years old, with silver hair and calm eyes that had seen humanity through 3 crises already. She let the shouting continue for exactly 5 minutes. Then she raised her hand. Silence fell. We have 72 hours, she said. I have called the Global Defense Council into emergency session. We will decide together what humanity's answer will be. The Defense Council met in a secure room beneath the city. 12 people sat around a long table, leaders of military, science, diplomacy, and government. Admiral Yoon Ji was there, along with Dr. Choi Min-ho, who had been monitoring communications from the station. A holographic display showed the 3 colony worlds in the Kepler Veil, blue and green and full of life, full of people who were waiting to learn their fate. Let's hear the military assessment first, Yoonji said. Admiral Yoon stood. Her face was hard. If we refuse the Council's demands, we should expect military action. The Dominion hegemony has been looking for a reason to test us since first contact. They'll lead the attack and others will follow. Can we win? Someone asked. No. Yoon did not hesitate. Earth's defense fleet has 400 ships. The Dominion alone has 6,000. Add the other council species and we're looking at odds of 50 to 1. Maybe worse. The room was silent. But, Yoon continued, we can hurt them. Badly. Human ships are smaller and faster. Our crews are trained for exactly this kind of asymmetric warfare. If they come for us, they'll pay for every kilometer. And then? Another voice asked. We hurt them and then we die? Maybe, or maybe we make them bleed enough that they decide we're not worth the cost. Yoon sat down. That's the military reality. What we do with it is a political decision. Secretary General Yoonji turned to Dr. Minho. Is there any legal option? Any way to fight this in their own system? Minho adjusted his glasses and pulled up a document on the display. There might be. I've been studying council law for years and I found something interesting. It's called the right of tribunal. Explain. The right of tribunal is an ancient law written into the council's founding charter 12,000 years ago. It allows any accused species to demand a formal trial with open evidence, judged by a jury of neutral parties. It was meant to ensure fairness. He paused. It hasn't been used in 3,000 years. Why not? Because the council stopped being fair. They pressure young species to accept judgments without challenge. Most are too afraid to demand anything else. But the law still exists. They can't refuse it. Yoonji leaned forward. What would this give us? Time, mostly. The tribunal process takes months to organize. It would also force them to present all evidence publicly, which means we could challenge the claim that we violated protected space. If we can prove the maps were deliberately incomplete, Minho spread his hands. We might not win, but we would make them look bad. And in politics, that matters. They would never allow it, Admiral Yoon said. They'll find a way to block it. Maybe, but Ambassador Park has a gift for saying things that are hard to ignore. Minho looked at the Secretary General. If he invokes the right of tribunal in open session, broadcast to the entire galaxy, the Council will have to respond. Refusing would prove that their laws mean nothing. The discussion continued for hours. Some argued that accepting the punishment was better than extinction. Others said that surrendering their technology would be extinction, just slower. A few wanted to attack first, to show strength before the enemy expected it, but through it all, one question kept returning. What kind of species did humanity want to be? Finally, Secretary General Yoonji called for a vote. Do we accept the Council's terms, or do we refuse? The votes came in. One by one, the 12 members of the Defense Council made their choice. It was unanimous. Humanity would not bow. Yoonji nodded slowly. Then we have our answer. Now we need to decide how to deliver it. She looked around the table. We will not accept their punishment, but we will not start a war either. We will invoke the right of tribunal and force them to face us fairly. If they refuse, the galaxy will see what the Council really is. And if they attack anyway? Admiral Yoon asked. Then we defend ourselves. We protect our people. And we make them remember that humanity does not kneel. The message was sent to Ambassador Park within the hour. Along with it came detailed instructions, legal arguments, and one simple order: speak the truth, invoke the law, and do not apologize. On Nexus Prime, Do-Yun received the transmission in his quarters. Sujin and Taiwu sat with him as he read it. When he finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Well? Sujin asked. Earth has refused the terms. I am to invoke the right of tribunal in open session tomorrow. He looked at his team. The Council will not like this. The Dominion will be furious. There may be consequences. Taiwu nodded slowly. There are always consequences for standing up. That doesn't make it wrong. This could start a war. The war was coming anyway, Sujin said. At least this way, we start it with our heads high. Do-Yun thought about the 2 million people in the Kepler Vale. He thought about the children who had been born on those worlds, who knew no other home. He thought about Earth, small and blue, floating in a galaxy that wanted to crush it. He thought about what his father had told him years ago. The universe doesn't care how small you are. It only cares how bright you burn. All right, he said. Let's write a speech. They worked through the night. Every word had to be perfect. Every sentence had to carry weight. They were not just speaking to the council, they were speaking to the entire galaxy, to every species that had ever been pushed down by those in power. By morning, the speech was ready. Do-Yun read it one more time, then closed the file. If this goes wrong, he said, I want you both to get back to the ship. Get back to Earth. Sujin shook her head. We're not leaving you. That's an order. With respect, Ambassador, you can't order us to be cowards. Taiwu smiled slightly. She's right. We came here together. Whatever happens, we face it together. Do-Yun looked at them, these two people who had left everything behind to stand with him in an alien place, surrounded by enemies. He felt something warm in his chest. Thank you, he said quietly. They dressed in their formal uniforms and walked to the council chamber. The corridors were busy with aliens preparing for the session, but everyone stopped to watch the humans pass. Word had spread that Earth had rejected the terms. No one knew what would happen next. At the entrance to the chamber, Do-Yun paused. He could see the seats filling up inside, hundreds of representatives waiting to hear humanity's answer. Thiessen sat on his platform, cold and patient. Korath was in the front row, his reptilian face twisted with anticipation. Sujin touched his shoulder. You can do this. Do-Yun took a breath. Yes, he said. I can. He walked into the chamber to speak for humanity. The council chamber was full when Park Do-Yun walked to the center platform. Every seat was taken. Every eye was watching. The air itself felt heavy, like the moment before a storm. High Arbiter Than's crystalline form glowed faintly in the dim light. The council recognizes Ambassador Park of the United Earth Federation. You may deliver humanity's response to the judgment. Do-Yun looked around the chamber. He saw Korath leaning forward with hungry eyes. He saw the Sara of the Valorians smiling with cold amusement. He saw hundreds of other faces, some curious, some hostile, some simply waiting to watch another young species bow down. He was being broadcast across the entire galaxy. Billions of beings on thousands of worlds would hear what he said next. He began to speak. High Arbiter, members of the Council, representatives of the Galactic Concord, I come before you carrying the voice of humanity. 8 billion people on Earth, and 2 million more living in the Kepler Vale. They have heard your judgment. They have considered your demands. And they have sent me to give their answer. He paused. The silence was absolute. The United Earth Federation rejects the Council's terms. The chamber exploded. Aliens shouted in a dozen languages. Some jumped to their feet. Korath roared something that the translator could not process. Thiessen raised his hand, and slowly the noise died down. You understand, the High Arbiter said, that refusing the Council's judgment has consequences. I understand, Do-Yun replied. But I also understand that the judgment was not fair. Humanity was punished for violating a law we were never told about, for entering space that was marked as open on every chart we were given. We cannot accept punishment for a crime we did not know we were committing. Ignorance is no defense. Thiessen said again, then let me offer a different defense. Do-Yun raised his voice so it carried to every corner of the chamber. Under Article 7 of the Galactic Founding Charter, any accused species has the right to demand a formal tribunal. Evidence must be presented openly. Judgment must come from neutral parties. This law was written 12,000 years ago to ensure fairness for all members of the Concord. The chamber went very quiet. Humanity invokes the right of tribunal, Do-Yun said. We demand a fair trial. We demand that all evidence be shown, including the maps that were given to us and the maps that were not. We demand that the galaxy see the truth of what happened here. For a moment no one moved. Then Korath stood up, his scales flushing dark with anger. This is absurd. The right of tribunal has not been used in 3,000 years. It is outdated, irrelevant. It is law, Do-Yun interrupted. Your law, written by your founders. Are you saying the Council's own laws no longer matter? Korath's mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked at Thiessen, waiting for support. The High Arbiter was silent for a long moment. Light moved inside his crystal body, slow and thoughtful. Finally he spoke. The ambassador's request is technically valid. The right of tribunal exists in our charter. It cannot be refused. His voice was cold. The council will vote on whether to grant this request. The vote took less than an hour. Species whispered among themselves, made deals, traded favors. Do-Yun stood in the center and watched the political machinery of the galaxy grind around him. When it was done, the result was displayed above the chamber. 20-4 in favor. 23 against. Humanity had won. By one vote, Korath looked like he wanted to kill something. Thiessen's glow had dimmed, and when he spoke, his voice was ice. The tribunal will be convened. Humanity will have its trial. But understand this, Ambassador, the outcome will be the same. Your species has delayed judgment. You have not escaped it. We'll see, Do-Yun said. He walked out of the chamber with his head high. Behind him, he could hear the buzz of 1,000 conversations. The galaxy was talking about what had just happened. A young species had challenged the council and won a battle. A small battle, but a real one. That was incredible, Sojin said as they hurried through the corridors. You actually did it. We bought time, Do-Yun said. That's all. They'll find another way to come after us. He was right. That night, Do-Yun was walking back to his quarters when shadows moved in the corridor ahead. 3 figures stepped out tall, reptilian, wearing dark armor. Dominion soldiers, Ambassador Park, one of them said. You should not have done that. Do-Yun backed up, but more soldiers appeared behind him. He was surrounded. The Dominion does not forget insults, the leader said. Your species will learn respect. Starting with you. He raised a weapon. Do-Yun saw the flash of plasma. He saw the weapon fire. And then Li Taiwu was in front of him. The bolt hit Taiwu in the chest. He fell without a sound. No. Do-Yun dropped to his knees beside his friend. Taiwu's eyes were open, but already they were fading. Get home, Taiwu whispered. Tell them. We didn't bow. Then he was gone. Alarms began to sound. Station security was coming. The Dominion soldiers fled into the darkness, their mission incomplete. Do-Yun knelt on the cold floor, holding Taiwu's body. Feeling something inside him turn to stone, Sujin found him there minutes later. She saw Taiwu and her face went white. They tried to kill you, she said. They'll say we attacked them, Do-Yun replied. His voice was flat. They'll call it self-defense. It's what they do. He stood up slowly. His hands were shaking, but not with fear. With rage. We need to get back to the ship, Sujin said. We need to tell Earth, not yet. Do-Yun's eyes were hard. Search their communications. Find proof, Sujin stared at him. How? You're the smartest person I know. Figure it out. It took her 6 hours. She broke through 3 layers of Dominion encryption using techniques she had learned from human hackers back on Earth. What she found made her hands tremble. Messages between Korath and Dominion Military Command. Orders to withhold the true boundary maps from humanity. Plans to manufacture. A violation that would justify crushing the new species. Before they grew too strong, the Kepler veil had been a trap from the beginning. Humanity had been set up to fail. We have to show this to the council, Sujin said. We will. Do-Yun took the data and saved it to a secure drive. But first we need to. He stopped. His tablet was flashing with emergency alerts. He opened the channel and felt his blood turn cold. The Dominion fleet had mobilized. Hundreds of warships were moving toward the Kepler veil. They claimed that humans had attacked Dominion citizens on Nexus Prime, the very soldiers who had tried to assassinate him. The council had issued a statement expressing grave concern. Several species had announced support for the Dominion. The tribunal was suspended indefinitely. And then came the worst news of all. Korath appeared on every channel, his reptilian face filling screens across the galaxy. The Dominion hegemony has no choice but to protect its citizens from human aggression. As of this moment, we are in a state of war. All human vessels will be destroyed. All human colonies will be occupied. This is not conquest, it is justice. Do-Yan stared at the screen. The war had started? Just like that, without any chance to show the evidence, without any trial, without any justice, his tablet buzzed again. This time it was Secretary General Han Yunji. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned. Ambassador Park, I trust you have seen the news. Yes, Madam Secretary. Then you know what we must do. Get home. Bring whatever evidence you have. We will need it for the history books. She paused. The enemy fleet will reach Kepler Vale in 3 days. Admiral Yun is already moving to intercept. Humanity's first battle among the stars is about to begin. Do-Yan nodded. What about the Council? The other species? Yunji's expression hardened. Some will help the Dominion. Some will watch and do nothing. A few might stand with us. She leaned forward. But in the end, Ambassador, this fight is ours. We will win it or lose it on our own. She ended the transmission. Do-Yan stood in silence for a moment, then turned to Sujin. Get to the ship. We're going home. They carried Taewoo's body with them. They would not leave him in this place. As the Horizon's Edge undocked from Nexus Prime and jumped to FTL speed, Do-Yan looked back at the station one last time. It hung in space like a monument to power, ancient, massive, certain of its own importance. He thought about what Elder Yalish had told him. They are afraid of you. Maybe fear was not enough anymore. Maybe it was time for the galaxy to learn something else about humanity. They did not just resist, they fought back. The Dominion fleet arrived at the Kepler Vale like a tide of metal and fire. 600 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They came in perfect formation, confident and unstoppable, ready to crush the human colonies and end the war before it truly began. Admiral Yunji was waiting for them. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Earth vessel Defiance, watching the enemy fleet appear on her screens. Around her, officers worked at their stations with quiet focus. No one spoke unnecessarily. Every person knew what was coming. All ships report ready, her tactical officer said. Yun nodded. She had 112 ships, everything Earth could spare without leaving the homeworld defenseless. Against 600 Dominion warships, it should have been a slaughter. She intended to make it something else. Signal the fleet, she said. Operation Burning Light is go. The human ships did not form a line and wait for the enemy. They scattered. They dove into the asteroid fields and gas clouds that surrounded the colony worlds. They hid in the shadows of moons and the glare of stars. And when the Dominion fleet came looking for them, they struck from everywhere at once. The first Dominion carrier died before its crew knew they were in a fight. A human destroyer dropped out of an asteroid's shadow, fired a full spread of missiles into the carrier's engines, and vanished before the return fire could touch it. 3 more carriers died the same way in the next 10 minutes. The Dominion commander was furious. He ordered his fleet to spread out and hunt down every human ship. That was exactly what Yun wanted. Spread out, the enemy was vulnerable. Human ships were smaller and faster. They could not match the Dominion in firepower, but they could outrun them, outthink them, and hit them where it hurt. For every human ship that died, 3 Dominion vessels went down with it, but it was not enough. It could never be enough. The numbers were too uneven. Yun knew this. She had known it from the beginning. The goal was not to win. The goal was to buy time for the civilian transports to evacuate the colonies, time for 2 million people to escape before the Dominion reached the surface. Admiral, her communications officer said. Transport Convoy Alpha is away. Convoy Beta is loading now. How long? 4 hours until all civilians are evacuated. Yun looked at her tactical display. In 4 hours, she would have maybe 30 ships left. Maybe less? Then we hold for 4 hours, she said. The battle went on. Human ships darted and weaved through the chaos, striking at the enemy and fading away. Dominion warships lumbered after them, firing blindly, sometimes hitting their own allies in the confusion. The void filled with debris and fire and the silence of death on the colony world below. Millions of people crowded into transport ships. Families carried whatever they could hold. Children cried in their parents' arms. Old people who had helped build these colonies stood at the windows and watched the battle in the sky, knowing they might never see their homes again. One transport was too slow. A Dominion cruiser broke through the defensive line and moved to intercept it. The transport had no weapons. No shields, just 3,000 civilians trying to escape. The human destroyer, Indomitable, moved to block the cruiser's path. Captain Bei Jisu stood on her bridge and watched the enemy ship coming. "We can't stop it," her first officer said. "We don't have the firepower." "No," Jisu agreed. "We don't." She opened a channel to the transport. "Get to the jump point. We'll give you time." "Captain, you can't. That's an order. Go." She closed the channel and looked at her crew. 23 people? Most of them younger than her. All of them afraid. "You know what I'm going to ask?" she said. Her first officer straightened. "We're with you, Captain." She smiled. It was not a happy smile, but it was real. "Then let's make it count." The Indomitable accelerated toward the Dominion cruiser. The cruiser fired again and again, tearing holes in the little destroyer's hull. The Indomitable kept coming. Its weapons blazed. Its engines screamed. It struck the cruiser amidships at full speed. The explosion lit up the sky. On the transport ship, 3,000 people watched in silence as the destroyer that saved them vanished in fire. Some of them were crying. Some of them were too shocked to cry. The transport reached the jump point and escaped. 3,000 lives saved. 23 lives given. That was the cost. Back on Nexus Prime, Park Do-yeon watched the battle from the horizon's edge as it raced toward Earth. The ship's screen showed the reports coming in: ships destroyed, people killed, colonies burning. He felt sick. Sujin stood beside him. Her face was pale. "Can we do anything?" "Yes," Do-yeon turned to the communications console. "We can show the galaxy the truth." He uploaded the evidence they had found: Korath's messages, the orders to withhold the maps, the proof that humanity had been set up. He broadcasted on every channel, in every language, to every world that would listen. "This is Ambassador Park Do-yeon of the United Earth Federation. The war you are seeing is not justice. It is murder. Humanity was trapped. We were lied to. And when we demanded fairness, they tried to kill me. They started this war to silence us before the truth could come out. Here is that truth." The evidence played. Korath's own words, his own orders, proof of the conspiracy. It spread across the galaxy in seconds. The reaction was immediate. On Nexus Prime, emergency sessions were called. Species that had supported the Dominion began asking questions. Some demanded answers from Korath. Some demanded the Council take action. The Watchers moved first. Elder Yalish appeared before the Council and spoke in a voice like distant thunder. The Galactic Concord was built on law, on fairness, on the promise that no species would be destroyed for political convenience. Yalish's form seemed to grow larger, darker. "What the Dominion has done is a violation of everything we created. The Watchers denounce this action. We demand an immediate ceasefire." Other species followed. The Valorians, seeing the political winds shift, suddenly discovered their concern for justice. Smaller species who had been afraid to speak found their voices. One by one, the Council's unity cracked. Korath raged. He called the evidence fake, called Do-yeon a liar, called for the Council to support the Dominion's righteous war. But his words sounded hollow now. The galaxy had seen the truth. In the Kepler Vale, the battle continued. Admiral Yoon had 40 ships left. The evacuation was almost complete. 1 more hour and every civilian would be safe. She just had to hold for 1 more hour. The Dominion fleet, battered and furious, made one final push. They came in a mass, overwhelming force, determined to break through and punish the humans for their defiance. Yoon looked at her remaining ships. 40 vessels crewed by men and women who had already given everything, who had watched their friends die, who were exhausted and hurt and afraid. She opened a channel to all of them. "This is Admiral Yoon. I know what I'm asking. I know the cost. But our people are almost home. 1 more hour. Give me 1 more hour and 2 million humans will live because of what we did here today. She paused. I cannot order you to die. I can only ask you to help me save them. The responses came back. Every ship, every crew. One word, yes. They fought. They bled. They died. For 1 hour, 40 human ships held back 600 Dominion warships through nothing but will and sacrifice and the absolute refusal to stop. When the last transport jumped to safety, Admiral Yoon had 17 ships left. The Dominion fleet surrounded them. There was no escape. Yoon opened a final channel to the enemy. This is Admiral Yoon Ji of the United Earth Federation. You came here to teach us our place. I hope you learned something instead. The Dominion commander responded. You are beaten. Surrender, and I will let your remaining ships go. Yoon smiled. We're not beaten. We're just getting started. You have 17 ships. You cannot win. No, but we can make you remember us. She was about to give the order to attack when new contacts appeared on her screen. Dozens of ships dropping out of FTL travel all around them. They were not Dominion. They were Watchers and Valorians and half a dozen other species. Ships from across the galaxy, responding to the evidence, responding to the truth. Dominion fleet, a new voice said. It was Elder Yalish. The Galactic Council has ordered an immediate ceasefire. You will withdraw from this system. Any further aggression will be considered an act of war against the Concord itself. The Dominion commander sputtered. He protested. He threatened, but even he could count. His fleet was damaged, exhausted. If the other species joined the fight, he would lose. This is not over, he said. Humanity will answer for what happened here. Yes, Yalish replied. They will. In a tribunal. Under law. The way it should have been from the beginning. The Dominion fleet withdrew. Yoon sat down in her chair. Around her, the bridge crew was silent. Some of them were crying. Some were too tired to cry. They had lost so much. But they had saved the people they came to save. Her communications officer looked up. Admiral, incoming message from Earth. It's Ambassador Park. Do-Yun's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired, too tired and sad and angry. But there was something else in his eyes. Something like hope. Admiral Yoon, 17 species have requested direct diplomatic contact with Earth outside Council authority. They want to talk to us. They want to know who we are. Yoon nodded slowly. The galaxy was changing. Humanity had changed it. What do we tell them? She asked. Do-Yun was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. We tell them the truth. We're small. We're young. We've made mistakes, and we'll make more. But we don't bow. We don't break. And we don't abandon our people. He paused. We tell them that humanity is here, and we're not going anywhere. Yoon looked out at the stars. Somewhere among them, the Dominion was planning its next move. The Council was fracturing. The old order was dying, and no one knew what would take its place. But for now, in this moment, humanity had stood up. They had bled for it. They had died for it. And they had proven something that the galaxy would never forget. They were not children. They were not primitives. They were not easy prey. They were human, and they were just getting started.